Welcome back. Today we're going to talk about my favorite linebackers when I was growing up. Basically, what kind of made me think about this was a couple of weeks ago, maybe 3, 4 weeks ago now. I was watching a Lions game on TV. Uh, they pop up to the box. It's Chris Spielman, who's an advisor or something for the Lions now. Start talking about him, and it pops into my mind. It's like, hey, he played for the Lions. When did he play? He played for Buffalo as well? Did he play for Buffalo before the Lions or after the Lions? It ended up. I looked it up. He played for Buffalo before the Lions, or before he played for the Lions before Buffalo. Um, and so this just made me start thinking about other linebackers. As I grew up in the late 80's, early 90's, mid 90's. I started thinking about the linebackers and uh, not disparaging any linebackers that have come since, like a Ray Lewis or a Luke Kuechly or some of those guys. I mean, we've had fantastic linebackers in the last 20 years. Um, but I just started thinking, it feels to me like the linebackers back in the day were there was just something a little different about them. I don't know what it was. I don't know if it was they were a little meaner or they were tougher or faster. I don't know what it is, but it feels like we don't have linebackers like that today. Maybe they're just smaller now. I'm not sure. Um, but so it just made me think about it. And so today I just want to talk about some of my favorite linebackers when I was growing up. Like I said, late 80's um, into the 90's. Uh, and so the first guy, as I've already mentioned, is Chris Spielman. Uh, the thing about Chris Spielman was he was just a mean, uh, physical, tough linebacker. What I remember about him is just the violence that he had. As a running back would come through a hole and he would just tackle him, and he played downhill and with such violence. Uh, in a good way, in a good football way. I mean, he was just tough and just hit people. He always looked really good in his pads. Like he looked like a football player, and he played like a football player. Um, and so he was really just a special guy. In my mind, and I don't know how many games he played in these uniforms. I'm not sure, but in my mind, I just think about those old school, the Lions uniforms, the throwbacks they wear, like on Thanksgiving Day, where they have the blue jersey, just the straight blue jersey, and the gray helmets, and the gray pants. Um, and that's when I think about Chris Spielman. That's what I think about. Uh, just and like I said, just coming downhill and hitting people. And I also have visions of him the short time that he played in Buffalo. Uh, just the way he looked in a Buffalo Bills uniform. I don't know. There's something about that uniform and the helmets that just I don't know. When you're a tough physical football player, you look like a tough physical football player. You just look really good in the Bills uniform. I don't know what it is, but that's what I think about. And whenever I think about tough, big, physical linebackers, what I think about is the Steeler linebackers back when I was a younger person. And the first guy is Greg Lloyd that I always think about, number 90. I believe he was 95. Greg Lloyd. He was so nasty and just so big and tough, and and I don't even know. Like I said, this is maybe my visions as a kid. I don't even know how good he is because I don't hear a lot of people talk about him nowadays. But um, he was in my mind's eye. He just coming off the edge, just hitting people and just being physical and big, muscled up, ripped guy. Just that's the first guy I think about with the Steelers linebackers. The next guy is Kevin Green, which played for the Rams. I believe he started off with the Rams, and then went to the Steelers. I think he went back to the Rams, and then he ended up going to Carolina and playing in on the Carolina team with Dom Capers as the defensive coordinator. They went to the 3-4 with the zone blitz package and stuff that really became popular then, and it's still pretty popular now. He also played with another guy that we're going to mention here in a second with the Panthers, but like I said, I really remember him playing for the Steelers, playing with Greg Lloyd on one side, him on the other side, and them just getting after the quarterback. And he was a big, with the long blonde hair. He had the blonde hair and the mustache, and sometimes a beard, I think. But really, it was the mustache and the blonde hair. Kind of reminded me of Hulk Hogan a little bit. And then he became a wrestler later on after he retired from football. But he was just a tough, nasty guy. And like I said, I just remember him sacking the quarterback, getting after the quarterback, and just making the quarterback's life a living heck all of the time. When he was with the Steelers, Greg Lloyd had a big part of that. And then I remember the middle linebacker, Levon Kirkland, big dude, 300 pounds, 290, something like that. And you couldn't, when you saw the guy run, you wouldn't have thought he was that big because he could run. Man, he could run. Number 99 for the Steelers. And once again, I just remember him just clogging holes and just hitting people and tackling and with that speed and how odd it looked for a big guy that big to run that fast and that hard. And that's what I remember about Levon Kirkland. And I know that I think he went somewhere else to play after the Steelers, and I can't think about it off my head. I don't really know I can't remember where he went and played, but I think he went elsewhere to play towards the end of his career and was pretty good there. But he was really good with the Steelers. That was kind of his prime years. The next guy is Chad Brown. Once again, kind of that outside linebacker, rushing the quarterback, going and getting the quarterback for the Steelers. I remember him being a young guy with the Greg Lloyd, and I think Green was still there as well. And he got after people, man. He got after people. He could run and was big, physical, could run, and just obviously there was a prototype for the Steelers then, and even now there really is a kind of a prototype guy when you kind of know football and you see a guy playing in college or in the NFL and you say, man, that guy looks like a Steelers linebacker, But Chad Brown was one of my favorites, man. He just made plays all over the field. I just loved watching that guy play. Later on, he went to the Seahawks. I believe they made the Super Bowl. I think he played on one of those Super Bowl teams, and was really good with the Seahawks as well. I think a neck injury or something ended up kind of cutting his career a little bit shorter than it would have been. But he was really good. The last guy, and I'll admit, I'm an Oklahoma State Cowboy through and through. So this guy, there might be a little bias there, but he was also a heck of an NFL linebacker, and that's Jason Gildon. Thing about Jason Gildon, once again, Steelers, I just remember him coming off the edge. I think sometimes in rush situations, sometimes they'd even put him on the ground with his hand in the dirt, and but I just remember him getting after the quarterback and just tackles having an issue with him. He could run. He had big muscled up guy, big jacked up guy. And once again, he was an Oklahoma State Cowboy, so some of that might go into why I liked him so much. But I always knew when you tune in to the Steelers and you'd watch their defense play, you knew that Jason Gildon was coming off that edge, and he was coming fast, and he was gonna get to the quarterback, and he was probably gonna, make the quarterback feel it. So that those five former Steelers, man, I loved. I'm not a Steelers fan, not a Steelers fan, but I respect them. But I loved watching them guys play. Also, he wasn't a linebacker, but you also had Rod Woodson in his heyday playing, and he was so good in the secondary. I think he played cornerback for them, and then when he later he went to the Raiders and the Ravens. I think he played safety, but he played cornerback for them. And he was really good. He was one of those guys you couldn't throw to his side. And obviously, when you talk about the guys that I talked about coming off those edges, rushing, you have a guy like Rod Woodson where he cuts off half the field. That really helps you as a pass rusher. So that defense was really good. I think Dick LeBeau was the defensive coordinator. Cowher, maybe a little bit of Chuck Noll, last part of Chuck Noll's career, and then Bill Cowher being the head coach. And those defenses were so good. They were just so good. So the next guys that I'm going to talk about, and I think that these guys, as a unit, as a collective unit, they don't get enough respect, and we as football fans, we forget about them because they didn't make the Super Bowl. They didn't. They weren't quite as good offensively as the Steelers were, or even the Lions. With Barry Sanders that I've talked about so far. But that's the New Orleans Saints. Okay, and there's three guys with the Saints. There's a couple other guys. I think Von Johnson played for him, and he was a pretty good player in my mind. Like I said, I know I've watched Von Johnson play, and he was a good player. I don't know if he played with this group. I think he did. But first guy is Pat Swilling. Pat Swilling was, once again, coming off that edge, getting after people. I remember him most as a pass rusher and just really getting after people. And that, Pat Swilling was he was a beast. He was a beast. And so then the next guy is Ricky Jackson. Once again, coming off the other edge. So you had Pat Swilling coming off one edge. You had Ricky Jackson coming off the other. And like I said, in my mind's eye, just as I remember him, Ricky Jackson was he was a big, physical-looking, mean, tackling, blitzing machine. Like, he was just a guy. Like, you saw him and was like, that dude is an NFL linebacker. I would not want to run into him because he is a beast. And so, those guys, I just remember as a smaller kid, I remember watching those guys, and they just get after people and just run the quarterback ragged, man. The next guy, and this guy had a unbelievable career, had a great career. I think he's in the Hall of Fame already. If he's not, he's going to be in the Hall of Fame real soon, and that's Sam Mills. Sam Mills, middle linebacker, little bitty guy. He's like 5'9", probably 240, something like that. But he was a tackling machine, man. He's one of those guys that could go sideline to sideline. If he was close to getting you down, he was going to get you down. He controlled the middle so brilliantly for the Saints, and then later on, for the Carolina Panthers. Like I said, he played with Kevin Green with the Panthers. They made the Super Bowl in 95, 97, 98, somewhere around there, which was kind of at the end of Sam Mills' career. But I mean, he was great all the way up to his last game. He was a tackling machine, and like I said, you come downhill on him, and he was going to get you down. He was going to chase you down. He was going to get you down. If he got his hands on you, you were going down. There was no doubt about it. You weren't going to be able to swivel away from him or juke him or whatever, because if he got a fingertip on you, he had his whole body. He was going to tackle you. But those Saints teams, like I said, offensively they weren't quite as good. And maybe the rest of their defense wasn't as good. They were really good defensively, but maybe their defense wasn't quite as good enough to get them to the Super Bowl or that level. And you also have to realize they played with the Cowboys, the 49ers, in those eras. That were really, 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 really good. Really, really good Cowboys and 49ers teams earlier, Giants and Washington. Obviously they won multiple Super Bowls during that time. The Cowboys, multiple Super Bowls. 49ers, multiple Super Bowls. And so, playing in the NFC, it was kind of a tough road to hoe for him. Next guy, and honestly, I didn't remember this guy. When I was just thinking, I didn't remember this guy off the top of my head. And then through looking, doing a little research on some of these guys and just kind of how they, who they were playing for in this particular era, this guy popped up, and once I saw his name, I remembered him. And once again, being a big, tough, physical linebacker, one of those guys. I think he was a middle linebacker, and he was tough. He just looked like a football player, and that's Bryce Paup, I believe is how you pronounce it. It may be Pope. It's been a long time, but Bryce Paup played for the Packers and the Bills. What I remember about him is he wore like a cowboy collar. And like I said, just looked like a football player. You just see him out there, big, jacked up. He's like 6'5", just physical specimen with that cowboy collar. Cowboy collar always makes you just look like a big, physical, mean guy, right? But Bryce Paup, he could hit you. He was a hitter, big, physical guy. Like I said, I in my mind's eye, he was a middle linebacker, one of those guys that you come down there, get through a hole, think, hey, I got a little yardage. All of a sudden, boom, you get popped, literally by Bryce Paup, and he was really good. I think he played for the Packers first, went to the Bills later, maybe after their Super Bowl run, but I think Darryl Talley may have still been there, Cornelius Bennett, which are two other guys that I don't have on my list, but that were phenomenal football players and really good linebackers in their own right. Cornelius Bennett especially, he was really good. But Bryce Paup played with them, but that was after their 4 Super Bowl runs and stuff. But and towards the end of his career, played with Green Bay before they were really, really good, before the Favre, maybe right at the beginning of the Favre years, but he would hit you, and he was really good. Some of these guys, these next 3 guys are pretty well known guys. I tried not to. I don't want to talk as much about the guys that everybody always kind of brings up when you talk about 90's linebackers, but. First guy is Ken Norton. Started off, he's a middle linebacker for the Cowboys when they first got good. I think the first Super Bowl year, it might have been the first 2 Super Bowl years. I'm not sure. I can't remember if he was on that second one or not, but he was definitely on the first one. middle linebacker. He was one of those. He was a tackler. Just was really. I mean, he was surefire, and one of those guys. He patrolled the middle of the field. You throw a pass, and he's in the middle of the field. He'd pick that thing off, take it for 6. Really fast, sideline to sideline guy. Once again, a tackler. If he could get his hands on you, he was going to get his hands on you, and he was going to do some damage. You wasn't getting away from him. He then went to the 49ers and had a brilliant career with the 49ers. Kind of a half and half career. Half of his career was with the Cowboys, half with the 49ers. And then later on, he was with the Seahawks. I think he may even made the Super Bowl with the Seahawks. Like I said, I can't remember exactly when they. I think they went to the Super Bowl, but maybe I'm wrong on that. But I think playing with Chad Brown, maybe when Ricky Watters was up there running the ball. Hasselbeck maybe as a quarterback. I think they made the Super Bowl. I think that was towards the end of his career. But Ken Norton was a brilliant linebacker. Was a really good linebacker, middle linebacker. Next guy is Derrick Thomas, which if you're an NFL fan or you know anything about the NFL and especially linebackers, you probably know Derrick Thomas. He's one of the greats of all times. The thing about Derrick Thomas was that he could play down, he could play up, and he was so fast. He was just, man, he was big, strong, powerful. I remember he'd come off the edge, and one time he'd just throw a tackle like he's a defensive end. And then the next time he would just use his speed and juke the tackle out of his shoes and go around and get the quarterback. But man, he was so fun to watch. Once again, not a Chiefs fan at all. But Derrick Thomas, he was must see. You kind of like the Steelers linebackers. Anytime I was flipping channels or whatever on a Sunday, a Monday, whatever, and they were playing and the teams that I wanted to watch weren't playing, I was going to watch the Chiefs because Derrick Thomas, especially the defense, because Derrick Thomas was just him. Neil Smith was a defensive end. They were so much fun to watch them get after the quarterback. And so Derrick Thomas was, he once again, he's one of the greatest linebackers ever. And just, he was just a beast, man. He was a beast. Like I said, he was too strong. You couldn't block him with the running back or really even a tight end or a fullback. He was just too strong for those guys, and he was too fast for tackles. But then sometimes he was just, hey, I'm just gonna run through you. I'm just gonna bull rush and put the tackle right into the quarterback. Unfortunately, he had an injury, I believe, and then he ended up hurting himself in a car accident. It was paralyzed and then ended up passing away in another car accident. I believe that's how it went. I might be wrong on that, but I think that's how it happened. Probably cut the end of his career off, which, he had a good career up to that point, but he probably still had 4 or 5 high level years left on his career probably, and it was really a sad thing. Like I said, I'm not a Chiefs fan, but I was a big Derrick Thomas fan, and so you heard that he had become paralyzed. That was a really sad thing, and then you hear that he passes away in a car accident, and that it was kind of hits you in the heart. The next guy, which this guy, his had an end that was tragic as well. But the next guy, San Diego Chargers, legend, one of the great linebackers of all times. I know this guy's in the Hall of Fame for sure. Derrick Thomas is in the Hall of Fame as well. But Junior Seau, when he was with the Chargers, and he had a brilliant career with the Dolphins, and then with the Patriots as well. Won a Super Bowl or two with the Patriots, and he was good with those teams. This guy with the Chargers was a one-man wrecking crew. I am telling you right now, if you did not watch Junior Seau play, you missed out on something, man. This guy is a legend, man. He controlled games as a middle linebacker for the Chargers. Uh, just he was as fast as a safety. He's one of those guys. He was as fast as a safety. Tackled like a great middle linebacker, like the Singletaries and the Dick Butkus and the Sam Mills of like the middle linebacker. He tackled like middle linebackers, and he could rush the passer like a down lineman, like a defensive tackle, like a nose tackle. He could get after you. He was so good. He was freakishly good. Just an all-around talent. And like I said, he was one of those guys that he was good till the last down he played. He was a great player. And unfortunately, he took his own life several years ago, maybe about 10 years ago now, 15 years ago. I can't remember exactly when, but yeah, he had some issues there at the end, and I always hope that when guys have that, and they were great football players, great basketball players, great athletes, that those issues at the end don't ruin their career, don't tarnish their career, because that guy was phenomenal. Like I said, he would shut teams down by himself sometimes, playing for the Chargers. And then later, he was probably in the middle of his career. Rodney Harrison kind of popped up and became a big time player for them. They had once again Oklahoma State, the Oklahoma State enemy, but Leslie O'Neal playing defensive end, he was really good. And once they got a running attack, and they got some good offense with Stan Humphries playing quarterback, Natron Means running back. They ended up making the Super Bowl, lost to the 49ers in 94, I believe, maybe 95. 94, I believe, is what year it was. And like I said, later he went to I think he went to the Dolphins after the Chargers. Was really good. I think he played for Jimmy Johnson there. Was a really good player for them. And then finished up with the Patriots. Had 4 or 5 really good years with the Patriots when they were just starting to build that dynasty up with Brady and obviously Belichick and some of those great defensive teams. I think he may have played with the Vrabel. He may have played with a Pepper Johnson. That was at the end of his career there, playing linebacker. They had another Teddy Bruschi. I think they had a couple other guys that were pretty good NFL linebackers that played on those later Patriots teams. They were all kind of older guys. But yeah, so basically that's just linebackers that popped in my head and that I really enjoyed watching whenever I was a younger man, whenever I was a kid, into my teenage years, and just sometimes I see guys now, like just I try not to be too recent on these videos here, but Dan Morgan was just hired as the GM of the Panthers, and I remember watching Dan Morgan. He's a little older or a little younger than the guys that I mentioned. He's probably 10 years younger than those guys. But I remember watching that guy play, and and he gets named to the GM, and you hear that name, and it just kind of pops in your head like, wow, man, I remember watching that guy play. He was so good. And so that's kind of what happened. Like I said, I saw Chris Spielman on TV talking about the Lions, and he's an advisor for the Lions. Uh, has a lot of stroke with the Lions organization. And I saw that, and I just thought to myself, like that guy could just really ball out. And then I started remembering the Steelers and the Saints and all these other guys. And so I just wanted to put that on video. If you remember watching these guys, or you've seen them on highlights, or you feel like, maybe they weren't as good, or you want to say something about how great they are, comment down below. Once again, I love hearing the feedback. I love seeing the feedback. I want to get the numbers up on this channel so that we can really engage and have good debates and talk about sports. Because that's what I enjoy doing. I enjoy talking about sports. And so love to talk to you. And thank you for your time.